Our session today is titled Productive and Unproductive Games That Managers Play. In this session, we'll discuss some of the behavioral games that managers play, some of the roles that managers assume both consciously and unconsciously, and then we're going to learn how to add to our effectiveness as leaders of human beings. Now, there are 10 different unproductive roles that managers play. As I share them with you, would you please, in your own mind, be thinking about which of those roles might you be somewhat guilty of? I suspect all of you do all the perfect things all the time. But sometimes the dailiness of life gets in the way of things, and we begin to be slightly unproductive. Maybe we're under pressure, maybe when we have too much to do, maybe when we have some difficult people with whom we must deal and who we must manage. Are you ready? First, I'll begin with the unproductive roles. Here's unproductive role number 1 that managers play. I call it the fog maker. That's the manager who keeps people guessing about what's expected and how well they're doing. They figure the fuzzier the instructions, the easier it is to find some reason to blame somebody for something. The fog maker. It's like a big smoke screen in the world. Somewhere in all of that is the truth. Here's the second role. It's called the exterminator. How do you like that for sort of a scary term? The exterminator. His motto is, come on, make my day. He tells people to do it or to lose their job. The exterminator. You do it my way or bye-bye. As if that kind of behavior, day in and day out, is going to get people to really change and become better at what they do. Here's the third unproductive role that managers play. The God player. Whatever people do is not good enough. Uses phrases like, any idiot ought to know better than that. As if they know everything and their people know nothing. Always condescending, always correcting, always dissatisfied with the performance of the people on their team. The fourth role, the unproductive role that a manager could play, is the social director. This is the manager who often says, is everybody happy? This kind of a manager assumes personal responsibility for everybody's problems. Let's talk. What's on your mind? What's worrying you? And while we have to be concerned about people, there is a thin line that when we cross it, we forget that we are in business to conduct business. We are not in therapy. We're not psychologists. And for heaven's sakes, we're not social directors. Here's the fifth role that managers play unproductively. The do-it-yourselfer. This person believes that if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. This person is a collector of other people's monkeys. Do you know what I mean by that? I put the monkey on your back. You put the monkey on my back. You have a problem, you give it to me. I have a problem, I give it to you. They're constantly putting problems on somebody else's back. They're constantly adding to the list of things to do for people on their team. Or they're doing it themselves. They're adding to themselves all these things that you can't do it well, therefore I am going to do it instead. Those are the people who tend to work long hours, weekends too. Those are the people who, even though they work very hard and very long, may not be the most efficient, may not be the most effective, and certainly may not be the most productive. The sixth unproductive role that some managers play is called the carom shooter. If you play pool or billiards and you want to hit this ball here and you're right here, this is the ball that you're going to hit, to get to this one, instead of going through a direct line, you hit this ball against this ball, then this ball hits this ball and puts it in the pocket. The carom shooter among managers is the manager who will say something about you, but he will say it to him. He will get to you, but only through him. No direct lines of communication, no sense of honesty and openness. In the end, of course, he finds out that the manager said this about him, but through him. And it does not create for good teamwork. It does not create for good loyalty. The seventh unproductive role is called the old-timer. This is the person who often laments, I remember when people used to work for a living. This is the person who always says, that's not the way we've always done it around here. This is the person who, while they bring a great sense of history and past experiences, which makes for really a lot of strengths, unfortunately dwells on those issues my way or no way, because that's the way we've always done it. And why are you bringing a new idea? This idea probably will not work. The eighth unproductive role is called the paper hanger. Now this is the person who doesn't process paper. They just shuffle it. You know the type? They pick up the letter, they read it, they put it in this pile. Tomorrow they pick it up from this pile, they put it in this pile. They just shuffle papers all over the place. And when they do that, they disconnect the process of communication. Instead of making for an easy flow through the organization, things always seem to get hung up somewhere. Now there's a reason why people are like that. Either they don't know how to process this paperwork forward, or they're concerned about something, or they are afraid of the results. I don't know what the reasons are. Different reasons for different people. But I can tell you that the manager who plays the role of the paper hanger causes a lot of frustration throughout their organization. Here's number 9, the prosecutor. This is the manager who publicly and loudly attacks anybody who makes a mistake. This is the person who always assumes that you are guilty until you are proven innocent. They would rather fix the blame than fix the problem. They would rather be right than be happy. Do you know people like that? It's sad, but it's true. And then the 10th unproductive role that managers play is called the wimp. This is the manager who is afraid to confront anybody, hates everybody, but wouldn't dare tell them. So he or she keeps those feelings to themselves. And when they do that, it causes disconnectedness in the company, and it causes a frustration in problem solving, in moving things forward, because they're afraid of the consequences. So they play it safe, and when they play it safe, not much productivity tends to take place. There you have them. 10 unproductive roles that managers sometimes seem to play. I don't know if you caught any of those roles that you yourself may be guilty of. I hope not, but if you are guilty of some of them, that means you are normal. That means you take risks. That means you are a human being. There is no such thing as the perfect manager. There's only the manager who works hard and smart at making things happen. And in the process, sometimes we make mistakes. And you know what? That's okay, as long as we learn from them and move forward. But likewise, my friends, there are 10 productive roles that managers play. And you may spot some of these roles in your own life, and I'd like to share them with you. Here's the first one, the facilitator. The manager who facilitates the process, who makes it easy for people to do their jobs. Who is always asking the question, how can I make things better? How can I help you to arrive at the right solution? What are some of the elements that are keeping you or your department or your team from accomplishing the mission at hand? They facilitate the process, and in so doing make everybody feel good and powerful and strong, and people play well with the facilitator. Here's a second very positive role that managers play. It's called the enabler. This is the manager who teaches people how and why, not just what. This is the manager who takes a little extra time to say, I care about you, and I want you to know why we are doing it this way. And so next time when you cross this bridge, you will know for yourself some of the ideas that went into the making of this decision. This is the manager that grows people instead of simply uses people. The third productive role that managers play is called the empowerer. This is the manager that generates enthusiasm, helps people discover better ways to do their tasks and their responsibilities, empowers them, gives them the authority, and when they make a mistake does not clobber them, but says, it's okay, we all have to learn somehow. This is the manager who says, if you take risk out of life, you take opportunity out of life. As long as it's calculated risk, as long as you think through it carefully before you do it, go for it and make it happen. That brings us to the fourth role that managers play productively, and that's called the guide. This is the manager who sets a good example, leads people to peak performance, and does so by his or her own behavior. These are the managers who don't say, do as I say, but rather say, yes, indeed, do as I do. They're the guide. They show us the way, and they lead us to prosperity and success. The fifth role is called the encourager. This is the manager who helps people believe in themselves, lifts people when they feel down, but without assuming the responsibility for their problems. Do you know the manager I'm talking about? The individual who lifts you up and makes you feel very special and moves you along the way to success, but does not necessarily do the job for you, does not necessarily assume all your responsibilities, rather just helps you to do them well. The sixth role is called the complimenter. This is the manager who tries to catch people doing something right and then rewards them for it. He always compliments in public and always criticizes in private. I don't mean by compliments that they're empty compliments that have no meaning, because if you give compliments coming and going day in and day out, the person who listens to those compliments is an intelligent human being. If they regard this compliment with any sense of significance, it must be a genuine compliment. It must be a compliment that the person says, I'm glad my boss noticed me doing something right. It makes me feel good that my manager complimented me on this project. Number 7, the peacemaker. This is the manager who works constructively to settle disputes. This is the manager who serves as an advocate to both management and workers. You know what I'm talking about? This is not the manager who simply passes the buck. This is the manager who says, management is here, employees are here. How can I build between those two a partnership for profit? How can I bring those two to understand each other, to work with each other? How can I build an understanding in management for the needs of employees and in employees for the needs of management? That kind of manager, my friend, is a magnificent person. Company person, but also a people person. And then the 8th productive role that managers play is called the communicator. Can you think of anything more important in human relationships than your ability and my ability to communicate effectively with each other? To speak in a way that people understand? To listen to people in a way that they know we care? To observe what's going on around us and about us in a way that we can catch facts and figures so we can do our job better? Communication ultimately is at the very heart of all we do. We're not machines, we're persons, and persons must communicate. The manager who knows how to explain to his or her people what to do and how to do it and why it's important that they do it is a communicator, and we need more and more of those managers. Number 9 is the challenger. This is the manager who shows people their potential without highlighting their failures. This is the manager who rewards people for their progress. Fair, yes. Accurate, yes. Does not give away anything that doesn't need to be given away, but is always tuned in to what's going with the people and how they can go to higher degrees of peak performance. And finally, the 10th productive role that managers play is called the evaluator. This is the manager who makes it clear what is expected. This is the manager who inspects the results and lets people know exactly where they stand. Don't you love the person who evaluates the process and shares with you in a loving way the results? You know at all times where you stand with them. There are no hidden agendas. You're not afraid of the unknown. You know where you are. And when you do something well, they reward you. And when you don't do something well, they tell you how you can do it better the next time. Let me ask you to do something for me. This little exercise will show you why productive roles that managers play and unproductive roles that managers also sometimes play interfere in the process of growth for an organization. Sometimes people who work for you do not share your goals. They do not share your vision. They do not share your purpose in life. And we get ourselves in trouble when we do those things that are inconsistent with our purpose in life. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine for just a moment that this hand right here stands for the goals of your organization. This is what you collectively have agreed to be the goals of your organization. These are the things that you need to do to make your company successful. Would you please focus on that hand for me? All of you, just focus on that hand. Look at nothing else but that hand. It's very easy to do, is it not? You can focus on the hand. You can tune out all the other environmental interference and focus on that hand. This hand standing for the goals of your company. Now would you please focus on this hand? This hand stands for your personal goals, you being an employee of your company. These are your personal goals. This is what you want to make of your life. This is the goals that you put down on a piece of paper. I want to save money. I want to send my kids to school. I want to build a house. I want to retire with financial freedom. Whatever those goals might be. Focus on that hand, please. Now do me a favor, will you? Can you now focus on both hands at the same time? Is anybody able to focus both hands at the same time? If you do, I want to send you to some science lab to be studied, because it's impossible to do. You can focus on this one, okay? You can focus on this one, okay? But you can't focus on both at the same time. What would happen, my friends, if I were to bring your personal goals and if I were to bring your corporate goals together like this in one place? Now would you please focus on these two hands at the same time? Is it easy to do? Very easy to do. When the corporate goals and the personal goals became one, we were able to focus on them and commit ourselves to them completely. And that is true of managers too. The manager who plays productive roles certainly has skills, certainly has been in classes like this where they have learned new technology of behavior and understanding. But beyond that, this manager who plays productive goals cares about his or her people, cares about his or her company, because they see their personal goals and their company's goals to be one and the same. You see, if you were to look at this chart for me for a second, you'll notice the black area, the yellow area, and the blue area. This one will call it tasks, the things that you have to do in your life. You get up in the morning, you go to work, you do what you have to do, you come back home, you take care of your family responsibilities, and so on. These are all tasks. The yellow area will stand for goals. These are the goals that you set for yourself in your life. This is where you are, this is where you want to go, and along the way you must accomplish these things. Those are called goals. And the blue area, the most important of all, is called purpose. Purpose. When you and I know what is our purpose in our lives, we are much, much happier. I have met many managers, in fact, I have worked with many managers who have achieved all their goals, would you believe it, and still are not very happy. And an unhappy manager can easily find himself sliding into unproductive roles because you and I act out our feelings, and those feelings that are in our subconscious mind become the very behavior that we carry out on a daily basis. The truth is, if I could take this chart and turn it upside down so that we must first define our purpose, then based on what our purpose is, then I decide what are my goals in life and what are those goals that are consistent with my purpose. And then ask the question, what tasks must I do to accomplish those goals which will eventually get me to my purpose? It's not what we do in life. What we do is we do a lot of things, a lot of things, a lot of things. And then we set some goals and we work hard towards achieving the goals, and then we stop short of defining our true purpose. A manager in an organization has an incredible purpose to help the process move forward, to help individuals do what they do at the highest level of performance, and in the process to feel this great sense of satisfaction that this manager not only managed the process, but led people, and great things happened as a result of that process. In summary, in this ever-changing world, and with all the challenges that managers face today, you and I must always strive to learn and act out the productive roles that make us better at what we do, and to avoid at all costs the unproductive roles that take away from our effectiveness as leaders in this changing world.